Hi, this is Richard Wright with Software Bisque, and I'm going to give you a video demonstration of the TheSky HD. The TheSky HD is for iOS. The HD is the iPad version as opposed to the iPhone version. HD just gives us a lot more screen real estate, so we can fit more sky charting and features on there. So here it is, the TheSky HD. Comes up daytime mode is the default on installation, and shows all the constellation figures. Now the screen is very customizable. There's a lot of things you can show or turn off, and so I'm going to show you what they are primarily by customizing this to my preferences. I like the nighttime view. The daytime view doesn't thrill me too much, and I like to turn off constellation art. I know that's very interesting to a lot of people, but it's not something I particularly like. You can also turn on some nice reference lines. I'm going to turn on constellation figures. I like to see those. And the equatorial grid is also helpful to me, and the ecliptic and the meridian. Double tap that there. You can also turn on a display for the Julian day right as an overlay, or the local sidereal time also as an overlay. I'm going to leave those off, however. For labels, I like to see where the planets are, and Messier objects and common deep sky objects. You can turn on constellation names. That's useful to help learn the sky, I suppose. As an imager, sometimes I forget which constellation is which when I'm looking around, because I'm so used to having a computer. You can also turn on common star names. That can be helpful. I'm going to turn that off, though. I think I'm going to turn off constellation labels as well, kind of declutter the screen a little bit. And you can customize this for your any date and time. Up here in the top corner, we've got the date control, and you can change this to plan out a couple months in advance, or if you want to create an animation to see things as they're going on the screen. Stop, go back to 1. There's also some handy presets if you want to go to directly to, say, one of the twilights, or when is the next new moon. You can click that and it'll take you right there. Notice the time displays simulation time, so you know that this isn't the actual current time that you're viewing the sky. If you click Orient, that'll let you kind of plan where things are going to be. This is a feature a lot of iOS sky charting programs have. You can hold this up and turn it left and right and go, okay, that's what I'm looking at. But it also works in simulation time, so I can set the time for a future date and time, and I can tell where Orion's going to be in the sky at that particular time, and that can be pretty useful. There's also a pull up option, which is useful for the way a lot of people like to look at their sky charts. And we have a red screen mode. Everything is red. The way we do our red screen mode is we actually compute the luminance from the RGB value, and at the very bottom of our graphics rendering, we turn that luminance into just a red value. So bright red objects don't appear white. They're still quite visible. A lot of people complain the red screen mode is hard to read at star parties, and I go over and they actually have red foil over top of the red screen, and that's why the red foil is attenuating it. Or the daytime colors, blue and so forth, don't look good through a red foil or red plastic. So we do that ourselves, and it works really well if you use the red screen mode. So what else can I show you? We've got a nice map chart mode. If you're into that, you can make the sky look like kind of a paper chart. That was a request when I was first starting to work on this, was a map mode, and that's very popular for printing charts in the desktop program, so a lot of people do like to see that. And this does have most of the databases that the desktop version of the Sky has, including our color pictures of common deep sky objects. And the way I'm zooming in and out is just with a pinch gesture right on the screen. Squeezing my fingers together. These are the sorts of things you would expect iOS mapping applications to do. You can also double tap to zoom in, and there's a little magnifying glass up here in the left corner. If you tap that, it'll zoom you back out to where you were before. To identify an object, you just press on the screen and hold, and a little cross shows up, and as you drag around, the cross floats above your finger. It's not underneath your finger because you can't see through your finger. And so I can get that crosshairs right on the star or the object, and then a little pop-up will tell me something about the object, information about all the catalog information, plus some observing notes if you're interested. It'll also, if you do a little swipe in here, it'll show you nearby objects that you may have meant to click on. They were very close, and so the desktop version does something similar to that as well. It's pretty handy. So what else can I show you? Well, let's finish customizing this for the way I like to look at the sky. The horizons, I don't like horizons. Under settings, advanced settings, there is a horizons option, and you can pick from one of a number of horizons. These are the same horizons that are available in the desktop program, except for one. The desert was too low resolution. You can say no horizon at all. I like to use no photo, and that gives me a nice transparent horizon. I can see what's below, and I can see all the way down. Here in Florida, out at my dark sky site, it's near a prairie, and I have visibility almost to the horizon in some of my directions. Also, if you're at the stars, like the Winter Star Party, and you're looking out over the ocean, this is kind of nice, and that's just the way I like to do it. You can do it however you like as well. So what else would be good to show you? Let's see. Under settings, there's a nice web data. You can download comet elements, asteroid elements, satellites, get the latest field of view equipment list from the sky. Let's go ahead and update that. Every so often, Daniel updates that on the web as new cameras and telescopes come out. And so you can get that automatically. You can also set it up to update automatically every so many days. So I can just say every 15 days, or I can change that value. Say, for example, for comets, say go get those on a regular basis, or go get my satellites on a regular basis. Satellites are kind of cool. My favorite satellite type feature, though, is iridium flares. The sky will compute iridium flares. You don't need an internet connection, other than you need to download the orbital elements at least every 10 days or so, and it'll compute them in the background while you're doing, and you'll see you get a little notification when iridium flares are ready, and you can go back to the iridium flare screen, and here's a listing. And also noted at the bottom there's a button where you can say compute on startup, and every time you start the sky, it'll start looking for iridium flares for your location, and you can filter the all kinds of things about how you want it to find the flares. But once it finds one, this is cool. You just tap it, and it'll show you where the flare is. That flare is very near the sun. That's going to be pretty tough to spot. Let's go back to iridium flares and find one perhaps where we're not staring into the sun. This is what I get for not rehearsing this too much in advance. There we go. There's a nice one in the sky. And notice you can see the little flare there in the center, little satellite symbol moving along. It'll also display the magnitude of the flare as it's brightening up. And negative 0.6, that's a pretty bright flare. That'd be interesting to watch. So you can also turn different databases on and off, and down here at the bottom in other databases you can see, actually I've added my own database from the sky, the Sharpless H2 regions. I like to shoot those, and there they are, the little green items there. You can drag an SDB from the SkyX into iTunes with the document sharing feature for the SkyX. For the Sky HD in iTunes, and it'll add the SDB and it'll plot it for you as well to the Sky HD. There is a user data option under settings, which will show you all of the added databases. So I also have the Able cluster database, and we make available on our website a deeper database of stars, the UCAC4 catalog, and also PG Faint, which is our fainter galaxy catalog. But we also have integrated a FITS viewer, so you can add FITS files in the same way. And the FITS viewer is a real FITS viewer. This is real FITS data here, 16-bit FITS data. With it just does a linear stretch, and it allows you to adjust the white and black points, and you can hide the histogram if you want. Again, a pinch feature will zoom in on it, and FITS files can be any size. It only loads as much as is visible on the screen, so you can load those big 16803 4096 by 4096 FITS files, and they work pretty good. So you can zoom in and pan a bit, and you can see it's paging in pieces it needs, because some of those FITS files are very large and they would exceed the maximum memory available. You can also look at the FITS header if you want. This one has been pre-stacked, so some of the information has been stripped out of it. There's a way to actually image from this, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later. But the FITS viewer is kind of nice, and you can add your own databases, which is pretty nice as well. Now, I like to image, so let's show you. Get some more interesting. Oh wait, no. I'm going to back up. Let's go to set your location, because I should have shown you that with the set the date and time. You can tell TheSky HD to use location services, which is going to use the GPS device in your device, or the GPS in your device. And you can also select a location. This uses Apple Maps. You can zoom in and press and hold, and it'll create a location at that spot. And then of course you can change your locations wherever you want, and you can also manually add it. So if you just know the latitude and longitude, you can type those in as well. So I'm going to go back to my use location services. Okay, that's good, and we get a little notification again that my GPS locations have been updated. So another thing to show you is the field of view indicators. I have listed either some custom telescopes of mine, and then selected some scopes that are in our lengthy database here, and also I have some cameras that I've selected from as well. And let's turn one of them on. Let's just take the first one here, the Veloce, and one of my QSI cameras. So now the field of view indicator doesn't show up until you zoom in a bit, and there it is on the screen. And you can do actually a twisting motion, it's not a pinch, but both fingers go on the screen and you twist them side to side, and you can tell that you're spinning that back and forth. And again, the zoom, standard pinch for zooming in and out. Well, let's find something interesting to look at. That's a good way to segue into the find feature. You can search by catalog ID. For example, I'll say I want to search for M42 and say find, and then I can say frame it up for me, and it'll center it and frame it up. And there's what M42 and the Running Man would look like with this telescope and this optic with a given position angle. So let's spin that around. I usually image at about 90 degrees, so it's going to look about like that. Actually, that would make a nice, pretty nice feature, a photograph. You can of course search for just things, naturally as well. You can type in things like the Eagle Nebula, and it kind of does a quick view, quick search while you're typing. And so there's the Eagle Nebula down there as well. Now, a really nice feature, one of my favorite features, is the planner. When you search for items, you can hit this plus plan button in the bottom right hand corner, and it will add it to the planner list. Now, the planner list is persistent from run to run. You can delete items by doing a kind of a left swipe on it. I'm not going to delete that though. And when you select the item, just select one, it'll show you, well, let's pick something that's up right now. So the Bubble Nebula. The blue line shows the elevation of the Bubble Nebula throughout the night. You get the time of twilights when they start and when they stop, and you can also press and hold on these buttons, not buttons, but these lines to go, okay, I don't want to shoot this until it gets to about 45 degrees, which is midnight. That one's kind of obvious. You can also change the day, change the month, so you can go forwards and backwards in time, and you can set your location. As your location changes, these curves will be recomputed, and as you change the time, the same thing. So it's a really nice planning tool. You can also click on notes and it'll show you notes about the object. You type these notes in yourself, so I can say, you know, yay, you know, the Helix Nebula. I should probably, yeah, there we go, yay, the Helix Nebula. And it'll save that. Well, only if I click save, of course, and it's there. Again, cancel. All right, and you can make your own notes about these objects, and that again is persistent from run to run. You can also frame the selected object, and it'll just take you right there, and there it is framed with my field of view indicator. As you can see, for this scope and optic, this looks like a pretty good choice, actually, for this object here. So you'll notice most things that you're going to use frequently are on the top or the bottom toolbar. Settings has a lot of advanced things you can turn on and off. For example, the Milky Way, you can adjust the transparency. Actually, I like the isophote Milky Way myself a little bit better. Let's see what that looks like. You can see that there. I like that view a little bit better myself. There's also some other things you can monkey with yourself. You can change how date and time is presented, whether the toolbars stay on or if they fade off, so you can get a nice full screen without the toolbars. You can also change the target frame rate of the rendering, and this is important, especially when you're out in the field or camping or something. Turning the frame rate down will save the battery life of your device. So that's kind of nice. Generally, I like it to be nice and smooth, but if I'm out somewhere and I'm away from a charger and I want to play with my iPad all night, then I'll turn the frame rate down to a lower value, and it just saves a little bit of battery. And you can change the line brightness as well on the lines. You can see they're very bright here, and now they're wow, that's way too dark. Just turn that back up. You can also adjust the brightness on your iPad itself. So how bright you make the lines is going to be entirely a matter of taste, and how bright you keep your iPad on a regular basis anyhow. So also under Tools, you'll see a number of things. You can get quick access to the planner under Tools to see all your objects. You can also get quick access to the Fits Viewer to look at a fits file if you want. And there's also weather shortcuts and an IP camera shortcuts. These are really just allow you to type in a URL, and it'll pulls it up in a web view. So anything that can be accessed with a URL can be put in here, whether it's weather or something else, which is what the IP camera thing is for. Notice we have Take Image here, and it's going to tell me that I have to be connected to the SkyX to make that work, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit later. That's the last thing I'm going to show you. We also have telescope control with the TheSky HD. You just hit Scope, and it'll allow you to connect to it over Wi-Fi. So under Settings, there is telescope control, and you can pick from a number of telescopes. The Paramounts, of course, work if you have a Wi-Fi adapter board, but if you have a Wi-Fi to serial adapter, it also works with any of these other serial mounts. Most of the popular mounts will work that way. And you just go Scope, Connect, and it will put some big buttons on the screen so that you can slew the scope around or find a target and slew to it. I think I'll make a different video on how to use this with a telescope, because there's also some polar alignment tools and so forth for Paramount users. Now, connecting to a scope is kind of nice for visual, but if you're doing imaging, we have some other interesting options. Under server connections, we have the SkyX Pro, which allows you to control an image with a remote copy of the sky. We also have ACP integration. If you select ACP integration, you put in the URL of your ACP installation, then see the button up there that said telescope now says ACP. And so let's zoom in on, say, the Andromeda Galaxy, and let's say I wanted to image that. I can select it this way, or let's not select it. Let's just frame this up the way we want. Actually, the Andromeda Galaxy is too big. Let's pick something else. Let's say I want to shoot this cluster here, and for some reason I don't want the cluster centered. I want it to be kind of cockeyed. So that looks like a kind of a crazy thing. How would we send that to ACP? You just click the ACP button and it takes the center of the field and it sends it to ACP. So you can go single image here and you click get coordinates from sky and it gets the name and the coordinates there. Now notice here it says center of field of view. That's because I didn't have necessarily an object selected. If I wanted to select an object, let's say M33, I could center M33 and I could select it if I want. And actually there's a button here for send to ACP as well when I've selected the object. And now when I say get coordinates from sky, it'll put in the object that I searched for or selected along with the correct right ascension and declination, all in J2000 coordinates, which is a requirement of ACP. And there you go. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one of the newest features to the TheSky HD and one of my favorite features, and that is using the SkyX Pro remote control. We call it a server connection. Under settings, you can configure your SkyX Pro connection here, the same place you would select ACP or whether you want to connect to mount directly. When you select the Sky Pro, you need to put in either the URL or a network address of where the SkyX Pro is running. The SkyX Pro is a desktop copy of the Sky running on a laptop or a desktop or a network computer somewhere connected to a mount and a camera, and we're going to control that mount, that whole imaging system, from the TheSky HD. Now when you've configured the server connection, you can see in the top left hand corner the telescope button has changed to the SkyX button, and if I click that, it flips over and it shows me the SkyX remote control panel. If I click connect, it'll attempt to make the connection over the network, and there we go, it's connected. It tells you the build number of the SkyX running remotely as well as the operating system, and it shows you the equipment list and the status. Green means they are connected. When you connect to a remote copy, if these items aren't connected, it does automatically try to attempt a connection to those items for you. Now this whole avenue of development for the TheSky HD is still under a lot of development. There's a lot of things we can do remote control with the Sky. Most interesting right now is just controlling the camera and controlling the mount that you're connected to on the other side. Of course, we can set the set point of the camera just like you can in the desktop version. We can also look at the last image. If the Sky is running an imaging system, or say you got an image run going, you can check on it and see what the latest the latest image that it has acquired is, and it transfers the FITS file from that version of the Sky to the iPad for us directly. But it also controls that that mount. So let's say I want to shoot the Whirlpool Galaxy, and I'm gonna select M51 here instead of trying to click on it. I'll click catalog ID M51. It's a very popular one. And down here at the bottom of the find panel, you'll see instead of slew, there's the SkyX button again, and it will tell the SkyX to slew. Here's our little notification. It says remote slew has begun, and if you look on the screen, you'll see the little Sky cursor. It doesn't update too smoothly because it's going over a network connection, and we're trying to optimize that. Once we're there, we can go to Tools, take an image. Now look, you can see the little let's show you that while it's there. There's a meteor shower radiant there on the screen. You see it just below M51. Every now and then a meteor shows up. Well, now it's gone, but it does show up every now and then. Alright, let's go to, well, there it goes. Let's go to take an image, and you can select the amount of time, say 5 seconds. It does automatically show the last image downloaded every time you come in here. So I'm going to say take a 5-second exposure. I'll leave it 1 by 1 bend, and let's say I want it to be on the red channel. You click take an image, and it'll do a little countdown and a little spinning thing. It's just letting you know I'm trying to talk to the Sky, and there's always going to be a little bit of network latency involved. Counting down, downloads the image, and voila, there is M51. We can monkey with our FITS viewer here to see it. It's a pretty good camera, right, for 5 seconds. Yeah, it's simulated. I'm using the DSS database on TheSky to simulate taking images, but it also shows you the FITS header. This is what the DSS FITS header data looks like, and there you go. So coming, soon we'll have some interesting things to do with, maybe the guider and the filter wheel, other sorts of things, and focusing. All of these are being worked on, and right now this is pretty useful for outreach. If you want to set up a scope and take one shot of different objects, you can very easily do that. Also, just connect to a running instance of TheSky and check on the imaging status to see how things are going. And we're pretty excited about where we're going with that feature. That set of features could be almost a whole product in and of itself eventually. So there it is. There's my little meteor shower below M51 shooting off every now and then. And I hope you've enjoyed this tour of TheSky HD, at least where it stands right now. Thank you very much.